Well, an unprecedented Democratic National Convention is about to kick off here in Chicago. Former President Trump now facing off with Vice President Kamala Harris, all as brand new Fox News rankings reveal that Trump has a commanding lead on two issues likely to define the presidential race. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered, and our special coverage of the DNC starts now. I'm Kayleigh McEnany, and I'm here with my co-host, Emily Compagno. Also joining us, Fox News contributor and president of American Spirit Enterprises, Tammy Bruce. Fox News contributor and former State Department spokesperson under President Obama, Marie Harf. And Fox News contributor and Washington Times opinion editor here too in Chicago, Charlie Hurt. We begin with the first Fox News Power Rankings featuring Vice President Harris at the top of the Democratic ticket. They show former President Trump with a commanding lead on the two top issues of the 2024 race: the economy, where he's ahead by 8 points, and immigration, he beats the vice president by 13 points there. But Kamala Harris does appear to be gaining ground ahead of a big week at the DNC for her campaign. Charlie Hurt, so the issues, the economy, immigration, abortion, Kamala Harris leading on abortion, not the other two, though indeed she appears to be doing better than Joe Biden. But on the issue of the economy, I felt like I was in Twilight Zone over the weekend. She debuts her economic proposals. You'd expect her cheerleaders at the Washington Post to play ball, but indeed they did not. Let's pull it up. This is the Washington Post editorial board, not an opinion piece. This is editorial board altogether. They say the Times demands serious economic ideas. Harris supplies gimmicks. They say her speech Friday was an opportunity to get specific with voters about how a Harris presidency would manage an economy that many feel is not working for them. Unfortunately, instead of delivering a substantial plan, she squandered the moment on populist gimmicks, even adjusted for the pandering standards of campaign economics. However, Miss Harris's speech Friday ranks as a disappointment when you've lost the Washington Post editorial board as a Democrat, Charlie.
Right. It's extraordinary. No, I was really shocked by that. It was funny watching the speech on Friday. I came away thinking, oh man, this doesn't make any sense, but they'll probably just sort of gloss right over it. But as you point out, they didn't. The problems with her plans are so obvious that they couldn't sort of cover them up. Look, obviously it's, Kamala Harris has had a very good 2 weeks. I would say it's mostly been lots of propaganda. But the fact that former President Trump is still up by double digits on a couple of the issues that most voters list as the most important issues for this election, I think says an awful lot. And then the fact that the first time she goes out and starts trying to explain some of the particulars, she gets panned across the board, not just by people like me, but by the Washington Post editorial board. I think that tells you an awful lot about the trouble she has going forward, laying out the specifics of her vision.
Indeed, and Senator J.D. Vance with Shannon Bream this morning. He talked about inflation. He talked about the polling. Here's what he said.
Kamala Harris got a bit of a sugar high a couple of weeks ago, but what we've actually seen from our own internal data, Shannon, is that Kamala Harris has already leveled off. If you talk to insiders in the Kamala Harris campaign, they're very worried about where they are because the American people just don't buy the idea that Kamala Harris, who has been vice president for 3.5 years, is somehow going to tackle the inflation crisis in a way tomorrow that she hasn't for the past 1,300 days. Giving Kamala Harris control over inflation policy, Shannon, it's like giving Jeffrey Epstein control over human trafficking policy. They don't buy the idea that Kamala Harris represents a fresh start.
Okay, now that was quite a line there, Emily, but he makes a good point. Let's pull up inflation. When Joe Biden took office, it was at 1.4%. It hit its height at over 9% in 2022. You see these inflation numbers there, Emily.
It's absolutely frightening, but keep in mind that Kamala Harris and her team are succeeding in distancing themselves from Biden's policies. They frankly are having their cake and they're eating it too, and that's what frightens me. Look, I don't want to start out a Sunday morning negative, but I am scared about these numbers because trends matter. And so as these details come to light, as the specifics, as we know, are absolutely untenable, frankly, to Americans, the reality, however, is that there's a certain narrative that's working. And it's working among particular groups of people. And let's talk about for a moment climate change and abortion. Now, it's incumbent upon the GOP to come out and be very specific with why power rested from the hands of the people was actually antithetical to the Constitution. They need to push back and say, look, here's what the abortion issue is about. It is restoring power to your hands. This is why the states need to have it. We know that for the first time in 40 years, it wasn't part of the Republican platform, specifically in terms of a federal policy. But that's what's important. We can't just ignore it. We have to educate voters as to why that is a successful approach. And then regarding climate change, here's what I think is really important. It is the #1 issue by far for young people, and that will bode a problem for Trump as we go into the polls if it's not addressed. Conservation matters, and conservation is held very tightly and with priority for a lot of those in the Republican Party, right? And so there needs to be better messaging going out so that people do not feel it's an either or, it's an us, them. They need to understand what the options are, because right now, the way that the left-wing media, by the way, is covering Kamala's untenable policies and the fact that she's had sort of a vapid approach is that they're saying Trump is too. That's not true, but it is working.
Marie, I think it's pretty undeniable that Kamala is doing better in the polls than Joe Biden was. We've seen the New York Times Siena poll, some tightening in the Sun Belt. But what I'm interested in is James Blair. He's the political director for Trump. I think he makes a salient point, and let's pull it up. This is Kamala vis-a-vis other nominees. So she's 5.7% below where Hillary was at this time, 6.6% below where Biden was at this time. Does that concern you?
I mean, look, we should be very clear here. Kamala Harris has completely reset this race. Look at our polling, look at New York Times, look at polling across the board. She is now in some polls leading Donald Trump in states like North Carolina. She has completely turned the tables and reset the narrative. And that's because she's running on hope and aspiration in the future. You may not like her policies, but she is going out there on the campaign trail being joyful, talking about what we can do as Americans together. And every time Donald Trump goes out there, he sounds bitter and angry and divisive, confused. He's now the old candidate in the race, right? He didn't used to be, he now is. And so when you look at our numbers this morning, Kayleigh, independents, Kamala Harris is doing so well among independents. We know that group of voters is going to decide this election in many of the states that matter, like Pennsylvania. She has completely reset this race. This week will be very interesting. You know, my party has a lot of work to do to pull off a convention that was as well-produced and sort of impactful as I think the Republican convention was. You and I talked about this at the time. But Kamala Harris is running a campaign for the future. And as long as Donald Trump continues focusing on the past and grievances and not trying to expand his voter bloc, I tell you, I talk to a lot more Kamala Harris insiders than J.D. Vance does, even though he said he did this morning. They feel incredibly good about where this race is, where it's heading. Voters go to the polls in mere weeks in some states, and Kamala Harris right now is giving the American people something they want. And that's
Marie,
optimism.
There's a lot there, but Tammy, the point about looking to the future is smart. Focusing on policy, looking to the future, I do think that's powerful. Joyful's clearly the buzzword, Tammy, but a lot of people don't feel joy at the grocery store right now. A lot of people don't feel joy when they go out into the housing market right now, and I know she's trying to distance herself from Joe Biden's policies, but will she be able to do that? She was his wingman.
Yeah, and again, I think this week is going to show us exactly what is likely to happen. What we've seen here with everything condensed into such a short period of time is that normally, all things being equal at this point in time, we would have seen these candidates for a year working against each other, dealing with debates and running in a primary season. So she's relying on this kind of vapid, empty thing where you can project your own ideas onto her. And yet what we saw, how quickly it can change, was this shocking announcement about price controls that, again, just kind of changed the tone in the air in that regard. It just shows you. And, of course, these polls that we're seeing now do not incorporate the reaction to what this means. She's not going to be able to be this empty suit of I'm whatever it is you want me to be, really for any extended period of time. If she has to address any issues, people are going to be reminded, because the media certainly isn't helping, and that's another dynamic. People know Donald Trump. They know what he's accomplished. They are on the right track when it comes to dealing with the issues. The biggest issue is, and this is why Bernie Sanders' numbers stay really high, is there's no scrutiny. And with Harris, not only is there no scrutiny, they're helping along her messaging.
Yeah, she's benefiting from a lack of specificity and incumbent upon the media, where are you guys, to nail down on the specifics. Well, this next story, I couldn't believe it. You won't believe it. Growing outrage over Planned Parenthood's offer of, listen to this, free abortions and vasectomies during the DNC. Details next.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.